The Miyawaki popper, originally developed by Leland Miyawaki. I believe he developed it originally to catch sea-run cutthroat and coho salmon off the beaches of Washington State. You will note the creative use of the popper head on this fly, tied in reverse in order to mimic the head of bait fish found in the coastal areas. So let's go ahead and tie the Miyawaki popper. To start, I'm using these double barrel surface seducer yellow chartreuse bodies in small. You'll note that the popper head does not come with a pilot hole, and so I run my bodkin, dry cold bodkin, through that in order to get a pilot hole. In order to enlarge it, I then heat my bodkin with the lighter and then run the bodkin through the popper head again in order to enlarge the hole, as you see here, so that it will fit over the eye of the hook. Into my vise I've got a number 4 4x long streamer hook. To that I will be attaching a mustad egg caddis offset number 6 hook as the stinger or trailing hook. Using a wire harness is my preferred method. I like the trailing hook to have the eye line up with the bend of the mainframe hook. I then attach my 130 denier white tying thread. I like a nice strong thread to hold in the chassis of the hook together. And it also gives it a white undertone to the belly of the fly if the fish are taking that in. Now I make sure I pinch the barb of my trailing hook, as there's more than once that I've stuck myself on that hook in the tying process because it points up right toward me. And if you tie enough of these, you will stick yourself to it. It's nice not to have that barb there when that happens. I'll bring the thread back to about opposite the barb of the mainframe hook and then bend the wires forward and fold them over themselves to continue tying that harness in. It really gives a secure attachment to the main frame of the hook and gives a strong chassis. I like to make sure that that trailing hook, the stinger hook, will never come out. At this point, it's easy to helicopter off the tag ends of the wire on the harness, and you get a nice clean finish that way. I like the way the hook holds here versus monofilament, which has so much memory and is often difficult to handle when you're tying the chassis of the hook together. You can position it just the way you like. So I'm coming in with some super glue here as a redundant method of securing that wire to the main frame of the hook. And I want to brush it in both sides. Now this is going to take a few minutes to dry, and so I will prepare one of these and we'll come back when the glue is dry. Now that we've got the glue dry, we're going to start coming in with our materials, and one of them is our grizzly hackle in orange. Now I did misorder this, but here I'll show you how I cup the 2 grizzly hackle feathers convex side to convex side, or concave to concave side, and how they'll go on either side of the hook shank. But before I do that, I wanted to prepare the feather and show you that I actually come in with another material first, which I had just forgotten here, but now I remembered in time, and that's my crystal flash in dark purple. Gives this fly a little flash and color back there, as these kokanee often have a tinge of purple to them. So we're going to, looks like I was tying in 2 strands of it here. It was only one, and I'll pick up the other one and get it in there. I like to do the 2 strands folded back over themselves, so there's 4 strands, and they trail back to beyond the bend of the trailing hook. And I get those on there, and I realize I've only got one, so I get the second one and we'll get that tied in. And so we're going to have enough color back there to be visible to the fish and noticeable. I like the purple. It complements the green of the main body of this fly, and the orange that comes in there with the grizzly hackle. So we get those secured in place. We'll get them cut to length, all the same, about just past, like I said, past the bend of the stinger hook. Now it's time to come in with the grizzly hackle, and I'll tie in one side, the far side, before I tie in the near side. I've got that one feather prepared here, and we can just bring that in and tie it in where I've opened up the feather shank there by brushing back the tail fibers, and we get that secured in place, and then we cut off the tag end of that. Now that's the far side. Now I'll get one to match on the near side. Again, I'll stroke back those feather fibers and open a place where I can do the tie-in. So here we go. We get that one facing the other one. We get the two concave sides cupping each other and get that tag end cut off. Now make sure that's well secured, getting off any extraneous fibers there. And now I like to lay down a bit of thread. It's a white body for a fish that may see it. And what I'm measuring here is the length of the head on the hook shank, making sure I don't go too far forward with my materials. And I like to lay down a base of thread, and gives the hook some friction for the Icelandic sheep fibers to adhere to prevent them rolling around or slipping around on the shank of the hook. I'm using dark olive here. Now this is a challenging material to handle, and you want to use a good bulk of it to make sure that you've got enough, because it really does collapse down in the water when it gets wet. So a nice good solid pinch of it, and it can be a challenge to learn how to handle it, but it's such a seductive material in the water when it swims and it gets wet that it's well worth the trouble to learn how to handle. Cut off the tag ends of that, and we get that well secured in. It's on a base of thread, so it shouldn't slip around, and it trails again beyond the hackle fibers, beyond the bend of the stinger hook, so that stinger hook is well masked by the tying materials. Now I lay down a shank of thread here to soak up some more super glue. I like to cover that whole shank, as you see there, and make sure that there's something for the glue to soak into. And we'll get that all tied up there with a good amount of thread. I'm going to put a quick half hitch in here with my fingers, and get that knotted off, and then we'll come in with the whip finish to do a whip finish knot here to complete the tying portion of the fly. Get that secured, cut off, and then the tying portion of the fly is virtually done here. All we're going to do now is saturate that thread with some brushable super glue on both sides. Make sure there's enough glue on there for that popper head to adhere to. Now that we've previously run the pilot hole through it, we can just jam that off over the eye of the hook, slide it down too. And I like the way the body materials here appear to emanate from the inside of that popper head. And notice the popper head, the angle is sloped upwards like that. That's the proper orientation. And now that we've got that secured on there, it'll stick really well. And I like to give those eyes just a touch with a Sharpie, a black Sharpie, so we give some pupils and attracts the attention of the fish looking at the eye of their prey. And just a little dot in the center, carefully placed. And what we've got is the Miyawaki popper. This one tied in the chartreuse head with the dark olive body and the grizzly hackle in orange. It really does a pretty good job of mimicking the colors of these coastal small kokanee that spawn in the fall, and the large cutthroat target them. I hope you enjoyed this fly. Leland was quite the innovative fly tyer, and I imagine he still is. He's not gone from us yet. And my only innovation here was in how to fish these flies. Leland would have fished these on a full floating line, and I've done so too, pursuing sea run cutthroat. But these particular cutthroat on the coastal lakes in the fall are swimming deep, chasing spawning kokanee, which are not found on the surface. So I put it on a full sinking line and fished it over the drop-offs in these coastal lakes, and it was a dandy. One other thing to note is that in the last step I will cut off the point and barb of the mainframe hook, leaving a bend there as a rudder to help swim the fly upright. Please come back to my channel for other fishing and fly tying content. I enjoyed having you here. Hope to see you on the water. Bye for now.